Hockey's back. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to my NHL Carolina Hurricanes Storm Surge MOC. Now I built this back at the end of the 2019-2020 season, as the Carolina Hurricanes are my favorite team and they have stirred up a lot of talk about their new end of game celebrations when they win at home. That started in the 2018-2019 season and has carried on. As a fan and being able to go to games, it is really fun to see and a really great experience between the players and the fans. Now, before I go talk about this MOC as a whole, let's break it down into parts. Looking at the minifigures, it is a very simple design. I just use black torso and arms, black legs, red hands for the gloves, as well as this old helmet piece that we've seen used several times, a trans clear visor, and I gave every player a stick and some skates. I took these skates off to get the minifigure stand, but just the basic Lego skates. Every player has a head. I tried to give them all unique heads, but I ran out and had to use some copies. For the torso, for the jersey, I printed out my own custom stickers. To do that, I found a Lego torso template and then just looked up the jersey and kind of put the design on. It wasn't that hard considering the jersey is primarily just some lines, and then I just kind of found the logo and put it on there. As you can see, I didn't put any numbers on the back, as I would have had to do that for 20 or so figures, and I just didn't feel the numbers were important enough to warrant that. Overall, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I do have to say the red is a little lighter than I anticipated, but that's just a small nitpick, and I am really happy with this figure. Now we move on to the two goalie minifigures, and I have to say I'm super proud of what I was able to do here. As you can see, I used the same torsos. I changed up the hands depending on the goalie to match their pads, and as you can see, I put on the legs backwards. That way I was able to get the padding effect, which I think is one of my favorite parts of this entire MOC, was just being able to do that. So I remove the stick here. The pads are just a 1x2 tile that I also put custom stickers on. I slid a Lego hand into the back of it, and the hand fits perfectly in the hole of the back of the legs, and it looks like they have their goalie pads on. I also have a 1x1 tile to symbolize the blocker. For the goalie on the left here, for the mask, Lego hasn't made a hockey goalie mask, so I had to use the football helmet piece, and I put some stickers on there to kind of give it some more detail. That really was the closest thing I could do for a goalie, but overall I'm so happy with these. I really love the pad design, like I said, and I could not imagine these any better. Now, breaking down the MOC, this is the Rink design. What I chose to go with is I made it in two halves to make sure each side looked equal, and then I just kind of slide them together. I have these red axle pieces that I put in between the two holes. That way it helps keep it together, as well as I have a logo sticker to put in the middle, which also helps with it. As you can see, I have other stickers to symbolize the circles, but everything else is not technique. Now, just looking at half of it, you can see the not technique as it's kind of just a wall here that I built up to get the curve. I use the three of the little curve pieces here to kind of curve it in so I can give it that hockey rink-esque curve. You can see here I have the center red line on this one, then the little gap in between to the blue line, and then over here would be where your goal is, which is what these studs right here are for, which I'll show you in a minute. You can see I have the goal line as well as the blue crease. This isn't exactly to scale with minifigures. That wasn't my main goal when making this. It was more for the scene of the storm surge. So this is not 1-to-1 scale here with the minifigures, but I really overall like the design. I was able to get a bunch of these pieces off of my Pick-a-Brick wall at my closest Lego store, which was a huge lifesaver, and it was just really lucky for me to go to the store at the time that they had them, so that saved me a lot of money on building this rink. Now here is the goal design for the MOC. As I showed you earlier, I put some modified bricks that had some studs out so I could make this goal, and it is not a very hard design. I just took this slope piece right here, the 1 by 2 by 3, excuse me, and then the slope piece that I used on the sides over here for the curvature of the rink, and then a little plate in between, and then a tile up on top. As you can see in the back, I used a 1 by 1 tile and cheese slope to help with the hinge brick bend, as I used a fence piece in the back to look like the net, and then I just kind of push it and lean it against. Overall, this is another one of my favorite parts. I really liked the design I was able to do and come up with. It's very simple, but very effective. I looked into using the Lego design from the winter accessory pack, but I felt that one looked a little too wonky, and this one looked a lot better, as that other one was too wide, and this one definitely fits a lot better, and with my blue creasing giving enough around the outside. Like I said, it's one of my favorite parts. I think the goal and goalie aspects of the MOC are like my favorite things. I am a huge fan of goalies. I think they look really cool, and I love how this turned out in the MOC. Up next, we have the boards. I'm going to just gloss over these really quickly as they're not that interesting. You see here, it's just some red bricks stacked up in 2, and then some trans clear window pieces and these same long panels that I used for the ice with some bricks on top. And then for the ones that have the curved edges, I used the curved trans clear piece and some curved red bricks. For the longer one over here, it's just a big straight piece. It's not that interesting, and like I said, a lot of this MOC is very simple, but this is probably the most simple part of it. In the arena though, the boards are not actually red, they are also white, but I wanted to go with red as that helps it kind of stand out and not blend in with the ice. So it's not accurate to the arena or hockey, or all hockey arenas in general, but I liked it, and it's the team colors, so that's what I went with. And the last hockey boards are the ones with the benches. So I just did the same thing. I had the stacked up of 2 bricks, and I put some tile over it, and then just made a little L shape around here so I can give the look of the benches. There's not anything in here. It's a pretty hollow piece, but I just wanted to give that look, a little bit of accuracy to it, where the 2 teams would be sitting during the game. Now that we're back looking at this MOC as a whole, if you do not know what the Storm Surge is, I'll explain a little bit. During the 2018-2019 NHL season, the Carolina Hurricanes chose to do an endgame celebration. For that, they start off with something called a skull clap, which they just kind of clap to a beat as it gets faster and faster, and then they break out into some fun activity. They've done a Congo line, limbo, the wave, they did a little lightsaber fight. For this one, I chose to go with the Thor one that Brock McGinn did, as it's one of the most iconic ones and the ones I see the most in advertising. For this one, they had one player, Brock McGinn, stand in the middle and then kind of hit his stick on the ground like he would with Thor's hammer, and the team circled him, and then they all fell to the ground. As you may have noticed, I have set up all of the boards. To do that, I just line them up, and then I have either tile or plate that connects everything to each other to help it stand. I just put it up on the edge of the ice, except for the bench, which has hanging off. One part is on, And then I have some tile in the back to help kind of keep it flush and it's standing up. Moving in, looking a little closer at the players, as you can see, I kind of am all standing in that circle I talked about. They're all on their skate pieces that I mentioned they had earlier, which can be a little difficult to set up as it's very limited points of contact with the ground. And they're a little unstable, so you knock one and it's over. It's kind of like a domino effect, and a bunch fall with them, but I've done this enough where it's gotten a little easier. As you can see, I gave a lot of the players, I had their hands up, kind of in that clapping effect that I mentioned that they do right before the activity. For this one, they clap, and once he hits the ground, they kind of all fall shortly after. There is McGinn in the center there with his stick hitting the ground. Moving a few players out of the way, here's a close look at McGinn, who's in the center. As you can see, I had to use Play-Doh to get him in the stance, which I know some builders don't like and think that you shouldn't do that, but it's the only way to get it to look right, and build how you want. I don't really care. To do that, I had to pop one of his legs out, as you can see there, and then kind of just put some Play-Doh on as he goes down on one knee and one foot, and then takes his stick and kind of jams it down into the ice like he's smacking it like Thor's hammer. Thank you so much for tuning into my Storm Surge mock. As usual, if you'd like to see more, you can head over to my Instagram, BC Bricks, and stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.